You're listening to the Jackson House Podcast, the starting point of your journey to recovery. Whether it's you or a loved one navigating mental health challenges or addiction, we're here to offer support. Get to know the dedicated professionals guiding you, hear powerful stories of transformation, and discover valuable tools and tips to maintain your well-being and sustain recovery. Welcome to your supportive community at both West Coast Recovery Centers and Jackson House. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of the Jackson House Podcast. And with me today is Jasmine. Jasmine went through our treatment center at Jackson House and is here today to share a little bit about her story and her journey through the process. So welcome, Jasmine, and thank you for your willingness to be here today and really just to share a little bit about your story and what led you to Jackson House and the transformation that took place.
Okay.
So where would you like to start?
Okay, so my journey begins in 2017 when my mom passed of cancer. And to cope with her loss, I began consuming a lot of alcohol and doing recreational drugs almost every weekend. And I kept up that lifestyle for a few years. And in 2021, I hit a psychotic break where I began hearing voices, seeing things, and feeling things. So I was having visual, tactile, and auditory hallucinations. And I was then put into my first psych ward in 2021. And there I was a resident, quote unquote, for over 2 weeks, and I was heavily medicated. None of the medications worked for me. And so I was then discharged, continuing to having auditory, visual, and tactile hallucinations. And that became the pattern for the next 2 to 3 years, where I would have a major psychotic break, go into a psych ward, be medicated with medications that didn't work for me, and then discharged. And that happened to me a total of 6 times.
And when you would get discharged, I mean, I know you mentioned your mom passed away. Did you have support at home or anyone around you there?
Yes, fortunately, my support were my grandparents and my boyfriend. But it was difficult because you're experiencing something that is hard to explain, and others don't have firsthand experience, so it's hard for them to understand as well.
Sure.
But I do feel very blessed that I did have a support system in general. And then in my last major psychotic break, the voices were telling me, and also I'd like to share that at certain points, it sounded like I was in a football stadium. There were so many voices. And in this period in time, the voices had convinced me that I was like the ruler of my neighborhood. And I have a Rottweiler named North, who is still with me to this day. She's an angel. And I let her out of the house and let her roam the neighborhood, thinking that I was the ruler of the neighborhood because of what the voices convinced me of. And the police were ultimately called because she had gone into a neighbor's home. And when the police arrived, the voices convinced me that they were there to take my life. And I immediately started fighting for my life. It was fight or flight response. And so when I aggressively approached the police officer because I thought he was going to kill me, it turned into aggravated assault of an officer. And I was then taken to jail, where I was continuing to hallucinate and have auditory, visual, tactile hallucinations. And on my record, it says that I was in there for a week, but I only remember being there for 24 hours. And then after my time in jail, I was released, and I was sent to a county psych ward. And that's where my insurance found me. And then I was sent to a different psych ward where I was there for over 3 weeks, or around 3 weeks. And they put me in touch with Jackson House. And at the psych ward I was at prior to Jackson House, finally I was given medication that did work for me. The hallucinations went away. I reached stability, and I then became a Jackson House resident.
Yeah.
And at Jackson House, it was truly a godsend because I went from only seeing bars on windows, being in a dark, cold room by myself, and to being able to wear what I wanted, have my cell phone, communicate with my family, um, and just feel as though I was not feel, but truly receive care that I needed and the support that I needed from the nurses, from the staff, from the therapists. And we would do therapy kind of sessions every day. And what I really liked too is that we were given responsibility in terms of the function of the house. And you just get really close to everyone that is a resident with you. It becomes your family.
Yeah.
And it was truly beautiful. So I left Jackson House and kind of reacclimated to the real world. And it was, I don't want to use the word difficult because it wasn't too difficult. It was more so a mental kind of challenge. Yeah, a mental challenge where you're now adjusting. And but something that I began doing was when I was at Jackson House, um, one of the staff members who's still there to this day, um, told us about this place called a clubhouse. And so I decided to become a clubhouse resident. And I really appreciated that because it also counts as volunteer experience, which is great for resume. But on top of that, it gives you a sense of purpose, which I think is the even more important aspect. It gives you a sense of purpose because you're working with other people towards the function of the clubhouse, similar to Jackson House. And I found others, and with the clubhouse, I do want to say that it's for people who also have mental health conditions. So you're able to relate to each other on a whole different level than others out there, you know?
Like when you speak of the beginning of your journey and you would come home, you had support, but it was not the support of people who understood firsthand what you went through. And so now you're in a place where you're being supported and offering support, and everybody's had a similar walk.
Exactly. And that was very valuable.
Yeah.
And is very valuable because I still occasionally go, and it's only occasionally because after the clubhouse, I was volunteering there for a while, and that's where I heard of something called peer support. And I was very intrigued because from my journey, I realized that I did want to work in the mental health, you know, I don't like the word industry, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Field, yes.
Yeah.
And so I began applying to peer support specialist positions, and I became a peer support after about, I'd say, a week of sending out my application out. So that felt like a sign that I was on the right track.
Yes, everything's falling into place for you.
Yes. And so I was with peer support for a little under 6 months, and it was a lot of driving. And I realized that, maybe I want to do something with less driving. So I took a break from that. I kind of just left that where it was, but I still talk to my coworkers to this day.
Sure.
And I decided to pursue my master's degree in clinical mental health psychology.
Good for you.
Thank you. And that's my story.
Yeah. Well, it kind of just goes to show you that, well, one, when I forget what the place was before you came to Jackson House, but where they were able to get you on the right medication and get you stabilized, I think at first speaks to getting to that place, right? You've got to get to some sort of stability before you can even begin to comprehend what the next steps are.
Yes.
And then what I hear you say, and what we pride ourselves on at Jackson House, is that we do let you kind of have one foot in, your world outside of treatment, where you have access to your cell phones, you have some accountability, like you have jobs to do, you have groups and things to show up for. So we give you the access to that, so you have some independence
but you're getting that in a supported environment to where you can leave Jackson House and go on. And it's, yes, you're going to have challenges, but you've kind of navigated some of those already. And just to see how quickly things turned around for you, you know, and to know that you're on your path to getting your master's and now taking what you walked through for these number of years and are going to do something purposeful with it. I know you also are a part of our alumni program. So obviously after somebody's completed treatment, we have a alumni program, because again, it goes back to connection, being connected to people who have walked through similar journeys, and being able to be supported in a environment that's just not so threatening. Can you speak a little bit about the alumni program and what that's done for you or helped you in any way?
Yes, I'm so grateful for the alumni program, because I think about where I was when I was a resident and how much I would have loved to hear the stories of people who have gone through the program like me, because I think one of the most important things to have is hope throughout your journey. And it really does provide hope for others. And even as an alumni, when I hear the stories of my fellow alumnus, I realize that that we're not alone.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that have walked similar paths as myself and others. And I think it's difficult. It's a challenge, but there's beauty in the challenge.
Yeah.
And because that's also just life, you know,
Yeah.
life is not a cakewalk. And so I think that when it comes to being a Jackson House alumni, it's about providing support for others, but it's also been extremely healing for me as well. And so I do encourage people that have been Jackson House residents or current residents to join the program, because it's very beneficial. It's been beneficial for me. And so I think it's beneficial to others as well.
Yeah, we try to keep connection ongoing, and then even speaking to, you know, when somebody leaves treatment at one of our residential facilities, you know, we do try to connect them to some sort of aftercare, because you don't want to just send people out. So getting you involved with the clubhouse or wherever that then leads, it's important, no matter what avenue it is, to find connection that is supported. And so we try to offer that through alumni, but obviously there's you know, other avenues to that as well. So how long do we have till you complete your master's?
Well, I just sent in my application, so it's still being reviewed. I checked it the other day, and it says review in progress. So yeah, hopefully I start this year, at the end of this year.
That's awesome. I mean, it just goes to show you, like, where you were several years ago to where you're going to be a few years from now, and the transformation that can take place. And really, your story is a powerful one of hope. And I hope that anybody listening to your story today, it gives them hope, whether it's for their own lives or for somebody that is a loved one that might be struggling as well.
Yes,
so,
me too.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story. And we're excited to follow you and see what unveils.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. And if you liked what you heard, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and follow. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We hope you've gained valuable insights and feel more empowered in your journey. If you or a loved one is facing mental health challenges or addiction, remember, you're not alone. Jackson House can help. Hold on to hope and take the first step towards transformation. Give us a call at 888-255-9280. Your path to recovery starts now.